This meeting is being recorded.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Infracost June community call. So the usual topics are on GitHub. We might do quick intros, and then I'll ask if anybody has specific topics we want to talk about. And then if not, we'll just go through the agenda that was on GitHub. So I'm Ali, I'm one of the co-founders of Infracost. Who wants to go next? Hilton.
Sure. Hi, I'm Hilton. I'm from IBM. Specifically, I'm from the Cloud Platform Division. And I'm here with Chris Waddington as well. Chris?
Yeah, so pretty much in the same boat as Hilton. Chris, we're both in Ottawa, working as part of the Cloud Platform team. I guess I can hand it off to Natalie to rant.
Cool. I think they just dropped off the call.
Okay.
Tim,
Infracost.
Hey, I'm Vadim from Infracost as well.
awesome. So Hilton, Chris, is there a specific topic you want to talk about? Oh, here comes somebody else. Connecting to audio. Yeah, is there a specific topic you'd like to talk about?
I don't have anything specific right now.
Awesome. Chris?
Nothing specific comes to mind. I mean, obviously, we're looking at contributing to Infracost. So if we touch on that and any of the way forward for that, that's obviously applicable. But also, yeah, in maybe like any of the roadmap stuff that you might have that would be related to support that, and what make in various cloud providers as well, I guess.
Sounds great. Yeah, I will go over that as well. Sina, welcome. Do you want to introduce yourselves very quickly?
Hey everyone. Hi, I'm Sina. Nice to meet you guys again.
Sina is a long-time contributor.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start by going over V10, which is our biggest change that we've shipped in the last while. I'll share my screen as well because that makes it more fun. So V10 is where it's really the end of a journey where we started parsing HCL directly. And the main reasons we did that was to address a lot of setup and pains that users were telling us about. So mainly that Infracost was slow because Terraform had to run init and plan, and previously to generate a cost estimate, you had to provide a plan JSON, which required those two things. So to give you an example, in our internal infra repo, it used to take us about 50 seconds to generate a cost estimate. Now that happens in like less than 2 seconds because the CLI is parsing the HCL directly. So we've removed the dependency on Terraform entirely. However, that doesn't mean that the old method does not work. So going forward, we will be supporting both methods. We can parse the HCL directly. So if you pass a code directory, we'll just parse the HCL code directly and generate a cost estimate, and you can pass in var files or specific vars. If you run Terraform yourself and generate a plan JSON and pass that plan JSON into Infracost, that will also work. Why is this distinction useful going forward? Because there are two classes of systems that we're seeing that integrate with Infracost. One are ones that I call version control systems, GitHub, GitLab, Azure DevOps, and Bitbucket. Those ones, there is no plan JSON. There is no Terraform. There is code, and people want a cost estimate. So we've updated all of the integrations to work with the default parsing of HCL. And then there's a second class of systems, I call them deployment systems, things like Terraform Cloud, Scalar, Spacelift, M0, Atlantis as well. Those are systems where a plan JSON file already exists. So if it already exists, you pass that into Infracost, you get a cost estimate. So going forward, we'll be supporting both methods. The side effect or the key benefits of having the ability to parse HCL are it's way faster and you don't need any cloud credentials or secrets anymore, which are needed by these guys to generate plan JSON. It also means we can do very cool stuff like show you the cost of Terraform modules. So as a DevOps engineer or as a software engineer, before I start to use Terraform modules and deploy them, there is no plan, there's nothing, right? There's just a Terraform module on GitHub or in an internal private module. I can now get a cost estimate from that. So that's a new feature. And then finally, we can basically compare runs. So Infracost Diff now supports comparing different Infracost runs. And those runs can come from different branches. It can come from historic versus today. And you can kind of see exactly what changed between those two JSON outputs, the Infracost JSON outputs. So those are the main changes. We've also made it much easier to detect monorepos. So if you run Infracost at the repo directory at the top level, we'll just detect all the other modules in it and show you one cost estimate. The migration guides are all here. And then there are some known issues with Terragrant. We've got workarounds. And so those are mentioned there. Any questions on 0.10?
Yeah. Does the HCL parsing use the usage file as well?
Yes, it works with the same too. So all of the features we've supported so far, they work with the usage file in the same way.
And the quality of the estimates, are they identical, whether you use the Terraform plan or the HCL?
So when we were comparing with users over the about 3 months period, we saw more than 90% were kind of matching. So in most cases, they match. In some cases, the code parsing gives a slightly different estimate to the plan JSON. And when we dug into those, most of them are because the user is making a code change. That code change isn't reflected in the plan JSON because of ignore flags or things like that in the Terraform plan. But when they make a code change, they expect to see a diff because I changed the code and I expect to see a diff. So some of the cases where there are differences, the CLI is behaving in the way the users expect it to behave, which is show me the cost impact of the code I just changed, ignore the plan for a second. But this is why it took us about 3 months, is because we were going through a lot of user experiments and basically seeing, are the estimates good enough? And what we're seeing now is yes.
Oh, that's great to hear.
We will be supporting both going forward. It's just what we're seeing is a lot of people are using the parse HCL because of all these benefits. But a lot of our existing users who already have a plan JSON, they don't need to worry. We'll continue to support that too. Any other questions? Awesome. So the second thing I want to talk about very briefly is the Visual Studio Code extension. So now that we're parsing HCL, we can show costs of modules. We can also show costs inside Visual Studio. When there is no plan, it's just me writing Terraform, and I want to see cost estimates. So we're going to be releasing this in the next 2 weeks or so, probably. It's not official yet, but there is a repo here, which is public, and you can play with it. Here is a GIF demo. So you can see there's a main.tf file. It's in Visual Studio. I'm changing an instance type, and you can see right above the resource, the cost estimate pops up. If you click on that, on this side, the usage, the full CLI output shows up. Maybe it's not very clear. I can't zoom in on that. Let's see. Yeah. Anyway, the main thing is there is a public repo. You can play with it. We're going to be working on it a bit more, and then we'll announce it properly and release it and do all that good stuff. But if people are wanting to play with it and create issues or give us feedback, we'd love early feedback. So that's Visual Studio. It will work with the Infracost CLI. So whatever API key you've configured in the Infracost CLI, it'll use the same thing. So you don't need to do anything special apart from just install the extension. And then the third topic I want to go over, which touches upon what Chris was asking about in terms of the roadmap, is we've started working on Infracost Cloud. So Infracost Cloud is our paid product. We will continue to work on Infracost community, the open source and CLI. What we're seeing from a lot of team leads is that they want visibility across all the cost estimates, across all their repositories. So I've integrated Infracost into 30 CI/CD pipelines across my orgs. Can you show me the most expensive pull requests? Can you alert me on ones that go above a threshold? Can you support enterprise agreement discounts and custom price books? And those are all kind of features that we're going to be building as part of Infracost Cloud. If you're interested in early access, you can email us and we'll add you to the early access list. And we're kind of baking all of this stuff in the open. So if you click on one of these roadmap items, you can see what the problem is. Here are some wireframes and how it could work. So we'd love feedback on those things. We're already receiving feedback for a bunch of them, like how do enterprise EDP discounts work in AWS, and users kind of telling us this is what they want. So that's kind of a quick update. It is early in this journey, and it'll take us a while to work out pieces like the authentication pieces. How can I log in and regenerate my API key and all of this kind of good stuff. But this Infracost Cloud product will continue to work with Infracost community. So if you want to just generate cost estimates going forward without Infracost Cloud, you can do that. There's no issues. It's just if you want this stuff right around team visibility or a way to set up budget notifications across all of your runs, you need some sort of central place where you can configure all those things across all your runs. That's Infracost Cloud. Any questions? Chris, in terms of the implications of Infracost Cloud on the other cloud providers being added in, there's none. It will continue to work. So the cloud pricing API is still here, and you can use our hosted one or the self-hosted one. So that will continue to work for users. There shouldn't be any kind of major impact to them. If an existing self-hosted cloud pricing API users, their workflow won't break. They'll continue to work. It's just if people want to use Infracost Cloud, they can. Yeah. That's kind of the bridge. I think those were the main topics that I wanted to cover. I don't know if there's any other things we want to talk about. Or Tim, Vadim, did I miss anything? We continue to get contributions on adding resources. We continue to get bug reports and all this stuff, and we will continue to work on those on the Infracost CLI and the cloud pricing APIs. So see Infracost Cloud as a new plate that we're going to start spinning next to the CLI plate, the cloud pricing API plate, our CI/CD integrations plate, and supporting new cloud providers or new infrastructure as tools. I know someone in the community is working on a Pulumi integration. That will be exciting. So there's a bunch of plates. We're going to keep spinning. And if there's people in the community that want to keep spinning with us, amazing. Come forward. Any other questions? Closing remarks?
I don't have any.
No.
You sorry, Hilton, you go.
Okay. Well, no, I don't. Other than we've been playing around with the HCL estimation, and we love it. It's fantastic.
That's great.
So the roadmap for the future, I guess, right now will be very focused on Infracost Cloud, right? That's kind of to answer that question for the roadmap. Yeah.
For the immediate, it's not that we're not working on the CLI. We will continue to work on those things and add those, but we have a lot of existing CLI users, and the things they are being requested for heavily are now, like, I've been using your Infracost CLI across my pipelines for a year now, and I need visibility of what's going on. I need to be able to push out recommendations to people. So we're going to essentially focus on that.
Sure. So like a lot of the CLI and that stuff is, I mean, obviously you welcome contributions, but it's more, I guess, like in maintenance, not necessarily for the not planning any kind of major feature additions in the next quarter or maybe two. Is that right?
I don't know, because a lot of those features we're working on have got a very heavy CLI piece to them. So
okay, sure.
If you look at like one of the open pull requests about the authentication, the whole authentication interface we're kind of changing. So you can log in with GitHub or Google, so you don't even need to like type your email address and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it's in maintenance. It's a lot more than that. Things like the EDP discounts, they're going to require major changes probably to the CLI to be able to apply those discounts on the CLI side. And then the stuff like Pulumi, I haven't seen the code changes that Richard's making, but they don't look small. Let's say that in the CLI.
Sure. So one thing I guess from looking at the process for contributions and stuff is that it and it's good to rely on the community for this, but I could foresee that as you scale this out, like the process for adding the mappings and stuff seems very complicated and could be a lot of maintenance. And I know that you're trying to work with the various cloud providers to assist with that maintenance. But I was wondering if there's any plan on improving, I guess, that aspect, trying to just to streamline that to make it a little bit easier to maintain.
Yeah, so we don't have anything immediately in front of us, apart from the migrations that Sina's been helping with a lot. So if I take you back a little bit, we started with a couple of resources on AWS. We then kind of went big on adding a lot of resources, and then we realized there's a lot of common things between these resources and the usage file. So we started refactoring the resources themselves, the mappings, so to make it easier for people to add mappings. Then we added the whole code gen tool to make it so it kind of generates some boilerplate code for you to add a new resource mapping. That was probably the last big effort. And what we're going through right now is refactoring all of the resources to use the new kind of structure.
Okay.
Once that's done, I don't know what the next thing after that would be. I think it would possibly be add support for all the resource mappings in the usage file, perhaps. So even if I don't have Terraform code or if have some other thing, I can still generate a cost estimate. That might be one. There's a GitHub issue about that. But perhaps you had something else in mind.
No, not yet. I was just wanted to pick your brain on the kind of the thoughts and the direction on that.
I'm very curious to see how the Pulumi integration is going to change the resource mapping logic, if at all.
Okay.
Because at the moment, there is a mapping between Terraform parameters and the pricing API. Are we going to have like a Pulumi map, which maps to a generic thing in between, and then the generic resources kind of maps to the cloud? So I feel like that's an area where we probably need to spend cycles on. I don't know, Tim, do you have any thoughts on that?
Richard's been telling me that the Pulumi and Terraform mappings are pretty similar. So maybe that won't come up. We'll see.
And Ali, just like as you describe how you started with AWS and grew it out from there with like it's a little bit like it's evident also in the code because I feel like there's a lot of opinionated stuff, even just based on the schemas that are in place, which are like tailored for AWS, and then we need to like make some changes maybe to fit IBM or another cloud provider, even as simple as like the naming being US dollars. I mean, we're going to put our cost into the US dollar field, even when it's actually not going to be US dollars. So I wonder if we could work with some potential schema changes to generalize across the cloud providers.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think we would happily spend time on those kind of things, because it's what we're seeing is there is the kind of people just want cost estimates, and they want cost estimates everywhere for everything. So it doesn't matter if I'm using IBM or AWS or if I'm using Terraform or Pulumi, I still want a cost estimate.
Yeah,
and that requires us to spend some time on those generic kind of schema
and
things, I think.
all of this stuff is just under the hood that nobody has any idea about unless they really like were to hit your hit your GraphQL API directly. But when contributing, it makes a little bit of confusion, I guess, because it just like, well, why is it called USD when I'm actually getting costs for other currencies? And so it could be a little bit of a barrier for your contributors when you're, because it adds confusion for things like that.
Absolutely.
Another thought that I had, which I think would be really interesting, I was wondering if your team has thought about it, would be trying to map like some correlated products across the different cloud providers. Everybody has like a Postgres database. Everybody has like a Kafka type product, and being able to do cost comparisons between the product to assist users in knowing whether it might make sense for them to switch from one cloud provider to another.
Yeah, that's a great point. The use cases we've heard around that are the what if kind of analysis. Like, what if I were to put all these instances on this other vendor?
Or even like a hybrid cloud approach. So sorry to interrupt, but I mean, like, obviously there's value in being able to have like all of your stuff in just one cloud provider, and some people would be perfectly happy to do that. But then if it can save them a couple bucks, then maybe they might be okay with like a hybrid model where their database is in one, and obviously it makes their Terraform a lot more complex too, but just even, I think being able to give a hint, I think would would be pretty valuable, I think.
Yeah, for
from
sure.
a consumer.
And 3 startups ago, when we were working on Plan for Cloud, we had those generic categories around compute, databases, and storage. Those were the services where across the vendors, you can kind of see comparable services and down to like amount of CPU resource and RAM that you would get across them. So I think something like that would be very cool as well.
That might be enabled by the supporting all the parameters in the usage file, because then we just need a mapping between resources. So
because I think that as like a value add for your customers, knowing that it even just gives them confidence, knowing that, yes, I am like, this is the cheapest that I'm on. Like if cost matters more to me than some of the other things like the support or that they might get from others and stuff. For some people, the cost isn't everything, but
yeah, absolutely. No, you're right. Just the visibility part is a big part of the value prop of using Infracost. Before I had no idea, now I know. Before I launched stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. It saves people a ton of time while having to comb over all of the costs for and all of the different pricing models for each of the services. And like, I could even see how you could even become like a bit of a quoting service to say, it's like, I'm interested in having like a server, which is the best place for me to go. Like you could conceivably do that since you're collecting all that, whether that's in your roadmap or not, it doesn't have to be, but you would have the power to do that.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. I'm thinking like the schema topic you talked about before, if we have those kind of categories in the schema, those were the things I would want to be able to filter on, right? Like show me all databases that give me at least this much CPU and RAM. And then like, I'm going to leave the cloud vendor and the instance type filters as blank. So you tell me what the options are in that category.
So that's so like, as like, obviously we're looking to add a number of services and stuff to Infracost. And if this is like a roadmap type thing and you want to have additional attributes, sure, we can definitely add it later. But if you can think of the schema that you might want, then we can just add it right off the start and be a prototype for it. We pick like some easy services like a database to start off with, like the prototyping of this. But
Tim, I'm trying to remember like the structure we store in the database, but we don't have, because it's kind of like a key value pairs in the metadata of the prices, the categories could be stored right now as well.
we have the attribute.
It's a generic
storing
attributes.
documents. So,
Exactly.
we have like the attributes which we could filter on.
I guess the thing we'd need to decide is just what do we call these category, like whatever. I guess that's what Chris just said. The scheme, like what's the schema for inside attributes? If we just kind of create maybe a GitHub issue and discuss a few things we want in the attributes, which could be then used for comparisons in the future, then those could be added right now. For IBM, for example, we don't have them for the other services until we go update those mappings, but we could have them for new cloud providers, right? So yeah, Chris, if you want to create a GitHub issue with like a suggestion of what are the attributes, maybe it's just category to start with. I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm sure Alistair would love to kind of jump on that and give you his opinions too. And then we can just pick, because I don't think any specific code changes are needed for you to be able to store those attributes for the new services you're adding. You should be able to do that right now. It's just if we agree on those key value pairs, then we can use them in the future for comparisons.
Yep. Yeah, just just floating the idea mostly because I've thought that would be kind of cool, and I think that it would be like as a consumer, I would love to know that information. So
yeah, specifically when we come to like build UIs on top of those APIs, that's exactly what those UIs need.
Yeah,
very cool ideas. Anyone got anything else? Sina, how are the migrations going with the Azure resources?
Yeah, I was a bit busy, but I'm back with the resources. I think about 35 resources are remaining, and I hope we can finish them by the end of this month.
Amazing.
Probably.
So 35 out of like the 230 or so we have, it's just those 30 that are left across all of the three? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope we can finish it soon. Yeah. So we can work on, there are some other issues that are open and are blocked by, migrating our resources to the new structure.
Exactly.
So we can work on this.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that will then kind of lead to the usage file and the API being able to kind of generate cost estimates. Awesome. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else, good seeing everyone. I'll look forward to chatting more on Slack and GitHub. Thanks.
Cheers.
Great.
Cheers.
Bye.
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 Bye, guys.